Okay, so this week we will be reading the book Who Would Win? The Polar Bear versus the Grizzly Bear from the Who Would Win series by Jerry Pallotta. And you'll be getting information from the text to make your own decision or your own opinion of which bear you think will win. You'll learn about their strengths, their weaknesses, and then be able to take that information and make a decision. So here we go. Who would win, the polar bear versus the grizzly bear? During the Arctic winter, polar bears and grizzly bears live far away from each other. But during the summer months, while looking for food, polar bears and grizzly bears sometimes end up in the same location. What would happen if they met each other? What would happen if they had a fight? Who would win? The scientific name of the polar bear is Ursus maritimus. Meet the polar bear. Polar bears are considered sea mammals. They spend most of their time on the frozen sea. They prefer to live near the edge of the ice pack, and they are the largest of all the bears. Fun fact, there are no polar bears in Antarctica. Remember, polar bears, North Pole, penguins, South Pole. There are no penguins in the Arctic. The scientific name of the grizzly bear is Ursus arctos horribilis. Meet the grizzly bear. Grizzly bears are mammals that live on land. You can tell grizzlies by the huge hump at their shoulders. This is a muscle that they use for digging. Did you know there are no grizzly bears in the southern hemisphere? Sorry, black bear, you are not in this book because you are not as big and ferocious as grizzlies and polar bears. Fun fact, while on a hunting trip, President Teddy Roosevelt refused to shoot an old bear. Newspapers teased him, and from then on, cute stuffed toy bears were called teddy bears. Fun fact, male bears are called boars, and female bears are called sows. Forget about it, giant panda, you are a plant eater, and you are no match for a polar bear or a grizzly bear. Polar bears have snow-white fur. Their color allows them to blend in with their environment, the snow, the slush, and ice. Fun fact, polar bears have black skin. So underneath their fur, their skin is black. Polar bears have names of ice bear, nanook, white bear, or sea bear. Did you know a polar bear's white fur is actually translucent? Translucent means that it's see-through or clear. Grizzly bears come in 4 different colors: dark brown, brown, reddish brown, and blonde. Fun facts, grizzlies are also called silvertips. So there's the 4 colors: dark brown, brown, reddish brown, blonde. These colors allow grizzlies to blend in with their environment, fallen leaves, dirt, rocks, and trees. So grizzly or polar bears can grow to be 10 feet tall. Did you know the polar bear is an apex predator? An apex predator is an animal that has no natural enemies. And if you remember from our story last week when we were reading about sea otters, they are the apex predator because they have no real natural enemies. So an interesting fact is polar bears can stand on their hind legs. And here is a polar bear. Polar bears are the largest predatory land animals. Polar bears can grow to be 10 feet tall. Here is a kindergartner next to the polar bear. So this kindergartner is 3 feet tall, and the polar bear is 10 feet tall. And the adult is 5 feet tall. A grizzly bear can stand 8 feet tall, and they tower over you. Grizzly bears can also stand on their hind legs. A polar bear is larger. Sorry, I cut that off. A polar bear's paw is larger than this book, so this is the actual size of the claw. And there's their front paw and their back paw print. Did you know a polar bear's paw is slightly webbed? It is like an oar, so it's perfect for swimming. Remember, if you ever see polar bear footprints, pay attention. In in a kayak, people say you never see the one that gets you. This is a grizzly bear's track. The track is a footprint, and their front claws can be up to 4 inches long. So, this is the actual size of their claw. Fun fact, humans have nails on their fingers and toes. Bears have claws. Each paw has 5 long, sharp claws. Polar bears are excellent swimmers. They can swim farther than 50 miles at one stretch. Polar bears mostly eat meat from the ocean: walrus, seals, sea lions, and fish. Seals are their favorite food. Fun fact, polar bears do the dog paddle. Did you know? Yikes, a polar bear can eat a human, but it hardly ever happens. Not many people live near polar bears. And grizzly bears are good swimmers, but they prefer standing in a river to catch the fish. If a grizzly stands in the right spot, a migrating salmon might jump right into its mouth. Interesting fact, grizzlies eat salmon, trout, apples, berries, honey, and anything they can get their paws on. Grizzlies have also been known to eat moose, elk, caribou, rodents, sheep, grubs, and clams. Not a fun fact. Each year, grizzlies eat a few people. Open wide, polar bears have carnivore teeth, canine teeth in front, and huge molars in the back. So these are the canines up front. Those would be very scary. Important fact, polar bears can smell a seal through ice 3 feet thick. Fun fact, carnivore means meat eater. Grizzly bears have teeth that are similar to a polar bear. Grizzlies have such a good sense of smell that they can detect a dead animal 10 miles away. So see, their teeth are very similar. Their mouths are designed a little bit different because their head shape is a little different. So you might want to keep that in mind when you're trying to make your decision. A polar bear can run 25 miles per hour. That is faster than a human can run. Polar bears can run down some caribou. So, who would win if they had a fight? The polar bear or a grizzly bear? It's because grizzly bears look slow, but don't be fooled. Grizzly bears can easily outrun a human. They are fast. So, the grizzly bear can run 35 miles an hour and the polar bear 25. Did you know a grizzly is faster on land and a polar bear is probably faster on the ice? So here's a polar bear skeleton. A goofy fact, all polar bears are left-handed. Interesting fact, a sun bear from Asia grows to be only about 5 feet tall, the average height of a human. Bear skeletons are somewhat similar to a human's: 4 limbs, 5 fingers, 5 toes, backbone, ribs, head, neck, and hips. This is a complete skeleton of the grizzly bear. Look at the difference in the necks. Okay, sad fact, the silver bear from Mexico was hunted to extinction. Interesting fact, scientists have studied bear DNA and think that the polar bear and the grizzly bear are descended from the same animal. Both have adapted to their environments. Polar bears prefer the sea. Grizzlies prefer to live on land. Only an expert osteologist, a bone specialist, can tell their bones apart. Polar bears are solitary animals. They rarely fight each other, and mostly they like to stay away from each other. Grizzly bears are also solitary animals, but groups of grizzlies sometimes fish together during the salmon migration. So kind of remember that. Polar bears like to just kind of be by themselves. Male polar bears do not hibernate. They spend all winter looking for food. They might build a snow cave to sleep away an unusually bad storm. So here's the snow cave where the mommy bear and her cubs hibernate. Female polar bears build a maternity den, usually in the snow and ice, to spend the winter and take care of their cubs. This conserves the mom's energy. Did you know hibernation is when an animal goes into a resting state of inactivity with a slower heartbeat, no eating or drinking, and a lower body temperature? Just before winter, grizzlies eat as much as they can to fatten up for a long sleep. Grizzly bears have a deep winter sleep, but it is not a true hibernation. A grizzly can wake up and suddenly attack you. In the springtime, grizzlies are hungry, so watch out. Funny polar bear stories. A U.S. Navy nuclear sub surfaced in the Arctic ice, only to find a few polar bears snooping around. Sometimes polar bears take naps in the funniest positions. A famous nature photographer waited for days to get a good picture of a polar bear. He was eating lunch in his pickup truck one day when he saw a big surprise in his rear view mirror. Funny grizzly bear stories. An Alaskan man came home to find a grizzly bear relaxing in his jacuzzi. A sailor anchored in a harbor in Alaska was awakened by a noise. He found a grizzly walking around on his yacht. Scared out of his wits, he pushed the grizzly off with an oar. Using a cheeseburger, a tourist lured a grizzly bear into his car. The foolish man wanted to get a nice picture of the bear sitting with his wife. The woman screamed, and the confused bear ran away. He was very lucky that bear didn't attack his wife. So, it is summer. The polar bear steps off into the ice onto a beach. A grizzly bear comes out of the woods. They see each other. They can smell each other. Both bears stand up to get a better look. Then it happens. The grizzly charges at the polar bear, growling and showing his teeth. The polar bear crouches down, paws up, ready for battle. Running at full speed, the grizzly knocks over the polar bear. The polar bear gets up and fights back. Whap! He smacks the grizzly in the face. Ouch! They claw, scratch, and bite. It's a nasty fight. So who do you think's going to win? Let's see. They wrestle, each trying to get the advantage. Rolling around, both bears get dirty from the sand and the mud. The grizzly is relentless. It keeps on fighting. Suddenly, the polar bear sees no point in fighting anymore. There is no reason to fight to the death. So the polar bear runs away. The grizzly wins. But now he is sore and tired. He hopes he never runs into a polar bear again. These two bears are so similar. Next time, the outcomes could be quite different. So the next time, maybe the polar bear wins the grizzly bear because they're very well matched. And the polar bear thought there's no reason to fight. They weren't fighting over food. They weren't fighting over territory. They weren't fighting over a mate. So he just left. So who has the advantage? We will go through this using the information. Who has who is bigger in size, the polar or the grizzly? Who has bigger claws? Who has the hunting skill? What about their teeth, sense of smell, speed, family, and hibernation? So we'll go back and go through that with the information. So I hope you enjoyed this book and that you've learned something new about polar bears and grizzly bears. Have a great day.